Hey, BookTube, welcome to Jack's Literary Corner. I am Jack, and I know any second now my dad is probably gonna call me, be like, "Are you ready to eat?" Because it always seems to happen every time. As soon as I decide randomly to film, right when I start filming, or right in the middle of filming, my best friend messages me, or like my dad or mom calls me down to dinner. Which it's partly my fault. At least with the dinner thing, I can hear. So I really shouldn't start, but I'm gonna try. So I recently finally started watching World Hoppers, which is a group of booktubers who talk about all about fantasy. Mostly, occasionally they'll mention the other stuff that they're into, but mostly they talk about and discuss fantasy books, fantasy movies, the adaptations that the books that are based off of the books. And actually, two of them I watch regularly. Their regular channels beyond World Hoppers, which is Elliot Brooks and Murphy Napier. They are awesome channels, and I definitely would recommend them. Like Murphy doesn't just talk about fantasy; she talks about the other genres. Like she's really into heavy contemporary stuff. And I'm trying to think of what else is one of her big favorites. She's been doing a series of reviews on classics that she really loves, and she and Elliot Brooks will do vlogs, especially sharing their family and a little bit of their family and their personal lives. And then Elliot Brooks, like I said, she's mostly fantasy. She's also a gamer. And she also plays violin, which I think is really cool because she will do videos where she creates music for a lot of the fantasy series and plays on her violin and will do a video of it, which I think is really cool. And the other two girls, like I think one of the girls, Jade, I watch at least one of her videos. And then the other girl, sad to say, I've not discovered her channel yet, but now I plan to check it out soon. And then the two other members, Jay, whose channel name I don't remember, and Daniel from Daniel Green, I've seen a few of their videos, and I'm actually, now that I've seen World Harvest, I'm starting to watch Daniel Green's videos, and I just love them, like, perfect for someone like me, because I'm mostly fantasy first and foremost, and I do want to get into more adult fantasy. I'm still working on my goal to get more into adult fantasy, which this is kind of what this video is about. But I wanted to kind of talk about the thing that inspired that. Although I already had that goal in mind last year, but the thing that is why it's my focus right now. I finally decided to really focus on that goal. And then I'm also gonna check out Jay's channel as well. But I love their channels, and I want to check out all the World Hoppers channels because it's like I said, it's perfect for me. So ever since I started talking about fantasy, I've been even more determined to get into more adult fantasy. So I want to talk about some of the adult fantasy series that I've either started and read the first couple books or the first book, or that I haven't started, but I've started buying the books so I can start to read it. So first I'm going to talk about the ones that I've already kind of started to read. Like I read the first book or the first couple books. Let's see. First is first about The Witcher, which I mentioned several times because I'm currently reading it. This is about a monster hunter, Geralt. I'm not gonna even bother saying the author's last name because it's Polish and I can't figure out I still don't know how to pronounce it. And it kind of reminds me of The Seventh Son. I don't remember the author's name. I really hope there's not another book with this title that is not the one I'm thinking of. But it's kind of set up like the Harry Potter series where it feels like a middle grade read in the beginning, but then as the story the reader grows with the character, or the character grows with the reader, I guess. And he is the seventh son of a seventh son, and is supposed to be a monster, and becomes a monster is trained to be a monster hunter, or as they call in that book series, a spook. Well, that's kind of the same as this, except for he's not. Except for this is more like he was. We don't know, like, what happened and what led to him becoming a witcher, which is what the monster hunter is called. And it's going to actually be a series. And I think Elliot Brooks said it was going to be this fall that the series was going to come out. I think they're in post-production right now. And the first two books that you should read are this one, Sword of Destiny, which, as you can see, I'm almost finished. I want to get it done before Thursday. Although, unfortunately, work just called me. I had just got home from work, and then they called me and asked if I could come in tomorrow. And as I've said before in other videos, I feel like when they call me, I feel like I can't say no. I mean, unless, like, there's actually some kind of something we're doing tomorrow, like I have an appointment or something that was already scheduled, or I end up being really, really sick, like last winter. Because, I mean, it's not the only, I'm available. So I feel like, okay, well, I gotta stay. What do I have to do that's pressing that I can't go into work and help them out? So, unfortunately, I'm not going to have all the time in the world that I thought I was going to have yesterday. But I am very close. I'm the last story, and it's only like 8 chapters. Well, they're not really chapters, but they're chapters, sort of. But the Last Wish. Now, I do think this one is a little bit better than The Last Wish. I mean, there might be some people that do like The Last Wish, but I personally like this one better than that one. And these are basically a collection of short stories that introduce us to the character, introduce us to the people in the character's life. Like we meet the sorceress Yennefer, who is Geralt's lover, and then we meet Dandelion, who is a troubadour that he's his friend and complete opposite of Geralt as far as personality goes. And then in the last couple stories, we meet Ciri, this little girl who he is told is tied to him. Her destiny is tied with his. And I think Elliot said that Yennefer's destiny is also tied to his. I mean, I don't remember if it actually says it in the book the way they're basically spelling out that this girl is connected to him. But Geralt, of course, does not believe in destiny. So I think this kind of sets up the main story. So I think that's why people recommend reading the two short story collections first. And plus, it's also a way to get used to his writing style, because since this is translate work from Poland, the author writes a little differently than American writing style. Like there's like run-on sentences that we're told in grammar that run-on sentences are not good, but I guess in Poland it is considered good writing. So far, it is really, really interesting world, and it kind of, and like I said, I like this one a lot more. There's a lot more. I like almost all the stories except for one story. I don't hate it, but I'm not as big of a fan of it, and that is Shard of Ice. It's actually kind of a depressing story. I mean, it has its moment of entertainment, but for the his relationship with Yennefer, it's kind of depressing, actually. But I think so far the one I just read is probably my favorite. It's so cute. It has one of my favorite tropes, which is the whole idea of the grouchy, cynical man having to babysit a little girl. That is really, like, she's cute and adorable, but she's also incredibly annoying. So one more story to go, and I will be done with it. And good news is, I think I can get it done. You know, even though I have to work tomorrow, I'm working 11 to 5 tomorrow, I think I can actually get it. Like, if I make sure to read tonight, right before I go to bed, which I usually do, but I mean read before I get in bed. Because as soon as I'm in my comfy, plushy bed, it's like I start to drift off really. I mean, I'm okay for like 30 minutes or like 5 minutes, and then I start like doing this. Like, I can barely keep my eyes open to the point where I have to read the same sentence several times until I can get past that paragraph or whatever. So I'm probably going to sit in one of my chairs and read the last story, and then I'm going to read but I want to get into, so this is a series I want to continue in, and a series I'm really liking. And then, which brings me to, this is the one I actually want to read in bed. That is the Dark Elf Trilogy. This is the first trilogy that they recommend you read in R.A. Salvatore's version of the Forgotten Realms, because there are a lot of authors that write in the Forgotten Realms world. And next I was watching Daniel Greed's video about, I can't remember what, I think it was world building, his world building discussion video, where he talked about part of the problem with the Forgotten Realms is there are so many authors that have contributed to the Forgotten Realms story that there's not a lot of cohesiveness, and there's a lot of just disjointedness. But this is his, R.A. Salvatore's aspect of it. This basically introduces the character of Drizzt, who is a dark elf, and he is from, a very dark community of elves that live, I don't know if it's underground or what, I'm not entirely sure on that front, but his family is brutal and horrible, and they want him to be like the rest of them, but he's not, he's a little cinnamon roll, he's so sweet, and he just can't imagine the blood and the gore and the brutality just murdering someone, but he's doing what he has to do to survive and prove himself worthy, basically, I think, to do just so that he can avoid his family, punishing him if he doesn't. And currently he is at the academy where, which I feel like it's kind of like a military school for elves, it feels like. And there's I feel like there's only one elf that really understands him, and that's Zach. I'm going to call him Zach because I don't know how to pronounce his whole name, so I'm just going to call him by his nickname, Zach. He is a lot like Drizzt, but he also knows how hard and cruel their people are, and that he can't, and so he's trying to help Drizzt and toughen him up before he goes to the academy. And I'm currently on the chapters where he's at the academy, and of course it's one of those books where it doesn't really drag it it kind of speeds through the whole academy storyline, academy part of the story where, tell about his experience and what he does, and then throw in some scenes where he's doing the training and stuff like that, like the important moments. And like I said, I was going to use this for the Medieval-a-thon, the bow and arrows prompt, where you read a book about elves, because elves use bow and arrows almost in every fantasy story. And it's really interesting. It's very, different than what I'm used to. And I'm glad it's only 29 chapters because I can get through it quickly. I like how the elves are, it's like an evil equivalent of the elves. They do mention fairies, and they make it seem like the fairies are the bad guys. But I think both the fairies and elves are probably bad guys. It's funny because they just did the whole where they get the lecture about how the fairies are evil and were cruel and unfair to the elves. And actually, that's kind of the route I'm going in the story, in my idea about the epic fantasy that I want to one day write someday. Where it's kind of inspired by the American Revolution, where where the Fae are like the British and the elves are like France. And if you've seen Hamilton, at least you have some idea of what I'm talking about, even if you don't know about the American Revolution all that much. And the mage, the humans, are like the colonist. So it's kind of similar, where the elves are going against the Fae and don't want their own separate thing. But they're not necessarily, they don't go all evil. There's going to be more gray in my story. There's no one group of evil people. So I'm liking it so far. It's a good, entertaining story. It's probably not going to be my favorite, but I'm still liking it. I'm really enjoying it, and I can't wait to get to the next one. So basically, I want to get into R.A. Salvatore. Basically, I'm working my way through R.A. Salvatore's because I got a whole bunch of R.A. Salvatore books, but I don't have the ones that come after this trilogy. The next trilogy, I need to get them. So either the next time I go to Givens, I'm gonna check and see if they have them because I know she still probably has a whole bunch of sci-fi, unless she got someone else who's interested in sci-fi / fantasy, to buy some of them. But I know that I'm gonna have to actually I'm actually gonna have to purchase the next visit, so I probably won't be able to get as much as I did this past visit. But I keep thinking that I missed out on getting the other books in the next trilogy that I passed on that. It's like I keep thinking like, well, I should have it was probably there and I missed out on getting them. But so there are 3 books there are 3 books in its trilogy, and then the next one's a trilogy. It's kind of set up like the Dragonlance books, where there's a bunch of little trilogies, and then there's the overarching plot. And this is like I'm really looking forward to getting into this. And all these are basically gonna be fantasy. There's only a few here that are not fantasy. So I'm gonna continue pursuing the Forgotten Realms. Okay, so next is The Faithful and the Fallen, and I still don't have the next 2 books in this series, but this is basically epic fantasy about this world that's, what is the world called? The Banished Lands, and there's this war of an old enemy that's coming, and it's centered around 4 characters. This young boy Corbin, who's all ready to be a soldier and stuff, but he's very hot-headed, and as the back description said, his chance to get what he wants is coming all too soon. And then you have Ferratus, who has forced to hide behind the shadow of his older brother, and he decides to prove himself by working for the prince of the other kingdom, which is Nathair, who has like all these plans and ideas, but his father thinks that he's not ready to lead. The problem is I am so bad at summarizing these kinds of books because I always because they're so long and dense, and I'm so used to the length of a YA novel, unless you're counting something like Harry Potter or Thorn Glass or Cassandra Clare, that I don't remember. Sometimes I take such long breaks in between my readings that I don't remember everything enough to give a really thorough summary. But at the same time, I don't want to reread because look how long and chunky this book is. I want to just get it done first and then reread it at some point. But either way, I every time I start reading, I have a good time. It's so entertaining. I love the characters, and then I got to get the next book because every time I go to Booksplain, it's never there. The second book. So I might order one, and I keep hinting to my mom about it, but I also don't want to be like, "Can you order this for me?" Because I've already done that once recently, back in at the end of May, I think it was. Because I had finished earlier this year, I finally finished, The Lies of Locomora, and I didn't have the second one. I had the third one, but I didn't have the second one, so I had to ask her to order it for me. And I kind of phrased it in a way that, I intend to read it soon. So it's going to be one of the books I might bring with me when I go see my sister, just to show my mom that I'm reading it. But anyway, So I'm really liking this, and there's I don't know how many books are going to be in this series, but they're all big. But it's like a fun story, and it's mostly human characters with some giants in there. But it's just really cool, and I want to continue with this series. And then let's see, easily get it. Okay, and then this is one of the few sci-fi I have here. I'm still like my goal is to get more into sci-fi. I've read some YA sci-fi, but I haven't read adult sci-fi yet. But I am starting reading the 2 adult sci-fi books that I have. Dune, which is also a series, but I don't know if I'll, I want to read that one, but I don't know if I'll go read the rest of that books in that series. But I also want to read this one next. But this is the series that the sci-fi show is based on, as in on the Sci-Fi Channel. And we're told when this came out, they said it was like the sci-fi version of a Game of Thrones. And George R. R. Martin blurbed it, apparently. And so far, like I said, again, this is another situation where I can't really give a good summary of what's going on so far because I don't remember, because it's been so long since I've read it. The good news, I haven't gotten as far in this one, so I feel a little less guilty than I do about Malice. But basically, from what I remember, this group, their ship was, I don't know, I can't remember what they were, but their ship is attacked, and they believe it's the Martians, the people from Mars, that attacked them and that killed their friend. So the captain sends a message out to the people, I'm gonna, I want whoever killed my friend to come forward so I can get my revenge, and that does not go over well. And there's also a police chief detective. We get his perspective. We get the perspective of the captain. I don't know if there's any other perspectives. And something had just happened, I remember. The police station was attacked or something. Like I said, with this one I could get away with reading it from the beginning without feeling like guilty. Like I don't want to start over with the other one because I feel like I will never get finished if I do that. Which unfortunately is what I did with another book series that I have, which I will show you in a little bit. But it's not like in a foreign language. It's just some of the stuff I don't entirely understand because I'm not a sciencey person. But still, it's still good when I read it. I still enjoy it, and I know enough that I have some idea what's going on, but not enough to give a good description. So, and I do have the second book of this series. I got it because eventually I'm going to read it. So this is one of my sci-fi ones I want to read, and like I'm not going to show you Dune because I don't know if I'm going to pursue that series further than the book Dune, because I know it does have Children of Dune is one of them, and there's other ones as well. I don't know what they're called, but let's see. And then I had just read what is it called? Where is it? Let me see if I can find it. Nevernight by Jay Kristoff, and so I know that Dark Dawn is coming out this fall, so I need to read God's Grave, which is the second book. And this one, at least I'll be able to give a better description. This is basically about this girl, Mia, and her father is convicted of treason against the government, and he is condemned. And her mom and baby brother are taken to prison, and her mom eventually goes crazy. And Mia decides to go to train to be an assassin so she can avenge her family. So that basically is the premise. It's a very dark, I think it's considered grim dark. I think that's what they call it. It's very bloody, gory. There's some sex in there. And I love that J. Kristoff does not shy away. Like, it's just so interesting, so good. And there's I love like everybody else. I love Mr. Kindly, who is her pet cat. He's basically a shadow who can eat her fears, and that's how she's being able to be the badass assassin that she is. At least, and I think when this first came out, when Nevernight first came out, I think people were like, if it's like if Selena from Throne of Glass actually did some assassinating, this is what what people who wanted her to actually be an assassin, that this provides that she's actually assassinating people and people actually die in the story and as far as I know, they don't come back. I mean, although I know some people are hoping that a certain character that dies towards the end of the book will come back. And I almost spoil it for you. But it was such a great book. I know it does have footnotes, and I know not sometimes that can be annoying because it can take you out of the story. But it does kind of help a little bit. But I know for some people do say that doesn't help entirely. It helps for a little bit, but then after a while, it's like kind of like, okay, enough with this. I'm just gonna ignore these. But I got used to them, and I would read them every time because I felt like, well, they're there for a reason. This is only a trilogy as far as I know. Now, I have not gotten to J. Kristoff's, like the stories that she wrote, the novels he wrote with Amy Kaufman. I did attempt to read that one series. I can't remember what the first one is called. But that first trilogy he wrote with Amy Kaufman, I did try to read that, but I appreciate the inventiveness of this alternative way of storytelling with the image, with the pictures and stuff, but it was a little hard to read, and I just couldn't get into it. So, I need to continue with this. I'm going to read this because the third book is coming out, and there are some... Okay, I'll be down in a little while. See, it never fails. So, but I do need to read this first. I mean, I do need to read, like, not first, as in, I need to read this year, because the third and final book is coming out this year. Because there are some series or trilogies even, where it's going to be a long time before, who knows when the next book is going to come out, or the final book is going to come out, like George R. R. Martin's Song of Ice and Fire series, for instance. Although I think finally Winds of Winter, I think it's called, is coming. Yeah, Winds of Winter. I was looking at, I have Dance of Dragons right there, and I was thinking Winds of Winter, white. But that one's coming out this year finally. And then we don't know when Patrick Rothfuss, although actually there is I think all the art, I think there is a date for that one now. And actually, Daniel Green himself I think there's a video where he talks about that, where, gives us the news, I think it's him, on the date of that series, of when the next book in that series is going to come out, or the last book in that trilogy. So it's a little darker of a story, but like I said, I'm kind of looking for darker stories. Okay, so this is another one that I'm pretty far into. It's easier for me to remember the details of this one than Malice. Kepta Swords. This is the first volume in a trilogy. Well, it's more than a trilogy. There are 6 altogether, but there's 2 novellas in this one, I believe. I think there's 2. And then I'm guessing that there's 2 in the other 2 volumes as well. This is about true mercenaries, Royce and Hadrian Blackwater. I don't remember Royce's last. Oh, Royce Melbourne and Hadrian Blackwater. And they are mercenaries that will do unique jobs for people, and they get hired to steal a sword, retrieve a stolen sword. It turns out that stolen sword was in the room of a king. and that king had just got murdered right before they showed up. So they get, when the prince discovers them, they get framed for the murder of the king. Well, the prince's sister, knows that they didn't do it, so she persuades them to pretend to kidnap the prince and take them to meet this mysterious figure in a prison and set him free and help him. And turns out that actually the true bad guy is their mysterious uncle, they're not mysterious. He's not mysterious at all. The uncle who wants to take the throne from them. And so that was the first story, and then I started the first chapter of the second one. It's just a fun swashbuckling adventure with some snarky characters, and Hadrian Blackwater is one of my crushes. I just love him, and I do have a theory about his character. I have a prediction about something that's going to be revealed about his character. I don't know. But just go on by the title of the next volume. I think it's the next volume. And some other things. I think that there might be some revelations about Hadrian and who he is. But it's just, they're both so these characters are so sassy and snarky, and it's kind of like the buddy cop kind of story. This first one, where these guys that are, criminals, and go on this journey with this guy who's like he's a prince. So, but it's very entertaining, it was very entertaining, very fun. I can't wait to read more. I just haven't gotten around to it yet, because there's so many other stories I've discovered, and this is one of the few series where I have all the books. Although there is now a set of prequels that just came out that are slowly coming out by Michael J. Sullivan. Oh, no, wait, it's the third one. That I was thinking about the title of the third one that kind of made me that is the reason for my theory. It was really cool. This was actually, what does it say? It was a self-published, actually. And it got so popular and was so good that it became like, not just a self-published, it actually became more beyond that. And I could see why, because it's fun. It's not literary merit, type of story, but it's still fun, exciting, thrilling, great characters, well written, and easy to read. It's fun, and I can't wait to finish the next story and then get into the next volume. And like I said, I can't wait to find out if my theory about Hadrian is correct. I might totally be off base with that, but I don't know. Or maybe it might be completely different than what I'm thinking, because I just had another thought of what it could possibly be with the title of the third volume. But either way, I cannot wait to continue. So there's that series, and Michael J. Sullivan, like I said, has some other series that he has written. Okay, finally, you got to this one. Of course, this one I got to continue, because I had already read the first two books of this series, and then I got halfway through, Storm of Swords. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, Storm of Swords. I got halfway through that one, but then I kind of took a really long break in between the readings. And then the show was going on at the time, and I was like, oh, I'm watching the show. I don't want to read the books right now. So I just finally decided to start rereading the series. So I've read the first one, and as you can see, I'm not even halfway in the second one. But I mean, I've seen the show, so it's not like I'm totally oblivious to what's going on. Basically, this is when Arya has been disguised as Ari, and when she's with Gendry and that gang, and she does at some point, I don't know if I got to that part yet, I think I did, where she runs into Beric Dondarrion and the guys that now have been converted to Lord of the Light, and then she ran into the Hound, who was gonna be like, he's gonna challenge Beric, and Beric's gonna lose, I think, and die, but then he's gonna come back. I don't know if I already read that part or not. And then there's the part when Rob, he's basically they're going to war with Jamie's army. I mean, I know it's not technically Jamie's army, but Jamie's leading the army. And they're currently with Kat's biological family right now, I think. And she is very concerned for her son. But, of course, Rob's like, I want to show these people I don't need mommy's help. I can be a good leader without my mother telling me what to do. And she's trying to be a good mom and give him his space. But it's not going well. She worries so much about her son. She can't just let him, go off and play dress up and play like he's a grown-up when he's just still a child. I mean, it's funny, watching the show, you forget how young these characters are supposed to be. Because they're cast by, old people that are at least a few years older than how the characters are supposed to be. Because, you can't actually have a kid. The age of these kids doing this stuff. Even, because there's some, very adult stuff that these kids do. That their parents, even though they're actors, I don't think their parents would be comfortable. So they cast kids that are a little bit older than the actual age. But yeah, it's another one of the series that most of the books I'm reading, I mean, there's never been a book that I don't enjoy being engaged in the story. It's just sometimes books that are this long, I tend to lose interest temporarily. And there's so many other shiny new books that I want to start. That's another series I want to continue with that one. And this is one that I did not put in my blog post or my Word document that I created, but I do need to continue pursuing reading the Magician series by Lev Grossman. I like the show, and for some reason I totally forgot to watch the most recent season, so I've been meaning to get to it this summer, but I keep forgetting because there's so many things, I'm watching reruns of Charmed and Ghost Whisperer. I have that pre-recorded, and I'm trying to read a lot more, and then my job and everything, so I keep forgetting to do it and take the time. And then there's all these other series, new series and old series that aren't old for me, but they're old for public. They're older series that I, I'm talking Star Trek Next Generation and DS9 that I started watching. And the good news, I'm only a few more seasons of Next Generation, but DS9, I'm still on season 1. Because it's just so easier for me to get into shows that I'm familiar with, I'm comfortable with, that I've seen before, so I can just have them on in the background. So I forgot to watch The Magicians, the new season, and I wanted to watch it, I just forgot about it. Not because I was bored with it, but because it just left my mind on the day the season premiered. But I've been also wanting to read the books as well, and it's another easy read. The chapters aren't that long, and I know the story. So as you can see, I did start it. And I'm on the chapter called, there's no chapter numbers, there's just whatever it's called, but the chapter's called Snow, so I don't know what chapter it is. But it's basically, first people used to compare it to Harry Potter, because it's this kid learns that there's real magic in the world, and he goes to a magic school, but really that's where the similarities end. Basically, this young man, he's not a boy, he's a man, probably 18 at least, and he goes to magic college, not magic, instead of, magic high school or whatever, it's magic college, and he learns to be a magician and perform magic, and he makes these, and he's kind of depressed, and you learn that magic is influenced by your emotions, which I've always believed that if magic existed, it makes the most sense. And that's what happened, and that's how it was in Charmed too. their magic was influenced by their emotions. So because our main characters, all their lives kind of suck, so that's why they're so powerful as magicians. And like he has his his love interest is the girl Alice, who's like really gifted magician, but she has these really eccentric parents. And keep in mind I'm going by the TV show too, and she doesn't want to be so gifted. She wants to be normal. And then you have Elliot. Oh, and our main character is Quentin. And you have Elliot, who's like one of his new friends. He's gay, and then he has his, of course, cliche, he has his female friend, Margot, although I don't think her name is Margot in the book. That's the name that they use in the show. And then the new season, I think, actually uses the actual name from the book in the show in this most recent season, because the characters have new identities and stuff. And so they go to school and learn how to use magic, and then they realize, and it's a very eccentric way of learning. It can be kind of brutal at times and very harsh. Not brutal as in like Dark Elf brutal, but it's very harsh and they're not being coddled. And then Quentin discovers that it's connected to his favorite book series from childhood, which is kind of like the Narnia books. I can't remember what the series is called. But the place is called Fillory. The place is called Fillory, and he discovers that it's real. And like I said, the only reason why I know so much more about it is because of the show. But I want to read the book, and it's a trilogy, so there's only 3 books. So when I say series, that's loosely because some of these books are trilogies. Okay, so let's see. I need to go through ones that I've already. Okay, so now let's just go and continue. So I have been like everybody else in the fantasy universe. I love Brandon Sanderson. He is awesome. It's easy to read. Yes, books are long and chunky, but they're easy. His writing style is very easy to read and to get into. And of course, there's the magic systems. That's what he's best known for. It's one of the things he's best known for. And this is a lot of people say that it's Sanderson's magnum opus, the Stormlight Archives. And as you can see, I started to read this, and this is one of the books I brought with me on the cruise. And I was able to read quite a bit on the airplane because it was like an hour flight. And it's such a great story. Again, it's multi-perspective story. But again, this is a situation where I can't really sum up yet what's going on. But one of our characters is Kaladin. He was trying to be part of the king's army, but then he was part of a group of people that died and failed. They were the lowest military group, and he was captured and imprisoned, and now he's a slave. And he basically works for what is called Branch 4, which is pretty brutal, and they are the first to be killed. Because they go carrying the bridge for the people to cross, for this little army unit to cross. And so they're the first to go out in front when people are being shot at. So they will die, but Kaladin is stubborn and determined to survive. And then you have the people that are directly working for the king, and we get their point of view. And I think I realized the character that I didn't know was up. I got spoiled and found that he's kind of he does end up becoming a bad guy, and that's So sorry, I'm really poor at summarizing books, especially if I haven't gotten very far in the way I read books this length. But I am enjoying it. It's a really good story, and I think this one is gonna be one I'm gonna bring with me to South Carolina. I mean, not South Carolina, to Virginia. But, and I want to read more and more of Branson. I have his other ones, Warbreaker, and so I got Warbreaker and Elantris. And I guess I could have talked about the Robin Hood books, some of their series, because, originally when I was selecting the books off my shelf to show you guys, it was like, oh, I can't pick the Shaman's Crossing because I'm already in the Robin Hood. I've read enough of her books that I feel like it would be kind of, like I was trying to put restrictions on the books I talked about in this video. So I guess I couldn't, because I've already read the first trilogy of Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere universe, and this is part of it as well, the Stormlight Archives. And this video is getting long, so let me hurry this along. Okay, so let's see. This is a series that I've already read and finished the first book. This is the only why anything on. Well, actually, I do have a middle grade 2 on this that I'm showing you guys. The Seven Realms. This is book 2 of the Seven Realms. It's basically centered around 3 central main characters. Princess Reza, who she wants to be a good queen, a good leader for the people, but her mom is kind of more like focused on her marriage and finding a husband. So they don't really see eye to eye anymore, and people are telling her that her mom's not the best queen anymore. And she's being heavily influenced by the wizard, her wizard advisor. And in this world, wizards are not exactly good guys. And people don't trust them. And another perspective is her bodyguard, Amon, who has been her best friend since childhood. But now it's really important, this separation between the two of them, the fact that he is a guard, she's the princess, but of course around the same time he starts developing feelings for her. So there's the trope of the princess and the guard romance. And then our other perspective is, what is his name? Let me see, does it? Han Alistair. We get his story, and he is basically just this street rat. He's kind of like Aladdin. And he has this reputation, but he has walked away from that reputation to take care of his mom and his sister. But then he runs into these young wizards and they're, button heads and stuff like that. And then Han discovers that the kid lost his amulet, and it turns out to be the amulet of the Demon King, a long-dead wizard who has tried to seduce and trick Reza's ancestor. So Han takes this amulet as I can't think of the word. I can't remember, but he takes the amulet and hides it away to keep this young wizard from attacking him and his friend. And it was really interesting. I had a good time, and it kind of was like the young adult version of a political intrigue type story. There wasn't a whole lot of action. There was some action, there wasn't non-action at all, and I'm definitely really interested in continuing. The good news is there's only 4 books. I'm wondering if I'm still trying to decide if there's going to be a love triangle or not. And it's kind of funny because at the time, my cousin Will, I thought he was going to be a reader as well. I don't know if he's going to be a reader anymore, but so I bought him The Warrior Heir, not realizing, and at the time I knew nothing about Cinda Williams-Shima. And I had no idea that it's the prequel. It's the series that she wrote after the sequel series that she wrote after this series. And he probably doesn't have it anymore. I imagine he probably gave it away because I doubt he was interested in it. But yeah, it was like, and I had no idea until one day, like when I started watching BookTube, and Reagan from Peruse Project started talking about how great the series and how much it's one of her favorite young adult fantasy series. And there is romance, but it's not as prominent to the story. I feel like it's there, it's part of it. It's not a tiny part of it. It's definitely more part of it than most, but it was enough that I had it in there and I was happy, but it didn't dominate the story. Of course, I love all the characters, and if there is a love triangle, I don't know, as usual, I don't know who I'm gonna go for, Iman or if she ends up, because I got the impression that there was something gonna happen between Han and Reza. I mean, there's definitely an attraction established between the two of them. So, although I think the twist at the end what was revealed at the end might have ruined that from happening, I don't know, but so this is the second book, and Reza this picks up, I'm guessing it picks up right where the second one left. I don't know, but I can't wait. And then I'm gonna read her other one, the Air series, and then she just started writing another series. I don't know if 2017 or what, but anyway. And of course it's over there. I need to bring it over here. Okay, so next. I finally bought this one. This is the second one. The second book in the Morgan Crow series about a girl that she lives in a small town and she is told her whole life that she is a cursed child, and that everything that goes wrong for the people from, like, they get, creditors, or, they get a splinter or something, that Morgan Crow is at fault. She's constantly blamed. And she is told that on her 11th birthday she will die. So, one day, a mysterious figure, Jupiter North, shows up and offers to whisk Morgan away to the world of Nevermore, where she has to pass a group of trials to get into the Wonder Society, which is a society that will be her family, that will love her and be there for her and support her. So Morgan is determined to pass these trials, and Jupiter North is her sponsor. And this is the second book. And it has been compared to Harry Potter. It has a Harry Potter feel, but it also has an Alice in Wonderland feel as well. I loved the first book. I mean, sometimes I'll agree that it's a hit or miss for me, because sometimes the writing style and the fact it's very juvenile, it's hard to get past. But I had a really good time, and I finally bought the second book. And I don't know what my dad's doing. He's saying something really weird. But it's so fun, I can't wait to continue this. And so far, this author's only written this series. Most of these authors have written more than one series. But this is going to be so fun and so interesting. And I've heard, a lot. It's great. And although things are not going to be going, of course, things do not go well for Morgan. And once again, she's in a very unfair position, from what I hear. But yeah, I cannot wait for this. Because I feel it's one of these situations where she's basically automatically, people assume things about her because of what's revealed at the end of the first book. And like I said, it's very unfair and unjust, and I have a feeling it's going to be one of these situations where I'm going to be yelling at the book. But I can't wait. Okay, so next. Okay, so the rest of these books I think are ones that, these last four are ones that I haven't started yet. Well, okay, no, not really. But this is the one non-fantasy, non-sci-fi book that I have here, and that is, I started collecting Ken Follett's books because they were at the bookstore, and I love historical fiction. It's just, I don't read a lot of it. It's not my go-to, and my go-to is fantasy, but I do enjoy it when I read it. The problem is the size of the physical size, not the length of the story, the physical size. The fact that it's a big book, so it's not easy for me to take around with me places. But this is one of those epic family sagas about this family in the early 20th century, and that's one of my favorite time periods. And as you can see, I did start a little bit of it. Like, our main character, this young boy, he's just turned of working age, and in their town, he is old enough to go to work in the mines like his father did. And he's a little nervous, he's a little scared about that. But of course, it's another one of these stories where everyone's all like, you shouldn't be scared, you shouldn't be a coward, being scared is stupid and wrong, how dare you? You know, but I feel like the problem is they convey that kind of message of you shouldn't be scared at all, but I feel like really it's not about not being scared at all. It's about, in spite of your fear, doing this thing that makes you scared. And I think it's an important lesson that sometimes I struggle with learning. But the little bit I've read so far I like. It's just, again, it's a big book. But I have both his series. He has 2 series out. He has this trilogy, and then he has another series that he's still writing. The first book is Pillars of the Earth, A World Without End, and the next book is Column of Fire. And I just bought that one. That one was I saw that one, I don't know if it was at BJ's or Costco that I got that one. But anyway, like I said, I like it so far, but I might start reading Pillars of the Earth first because it's not as big, like physically big, and it's easier to take with me places. But part of the problem is it's definitely not, even though it's a mass market paperback, so fit perfectly in my lunchbox, it's not one of those ones I can actually take with me to work because I only got 15 minutes, so I need a book where, you know, I can read like a couple pages and be good for now until I get back home. But anyway, so you know, I want to continue reading his books. I've started both Pillars of the Earth and that one, but I haven't really gotten far in either one of them. And then this was one Holly Hart's Books talked about the series, so luckily I found it at my Books A Million, because sometimes my Books A Million doesn't have the books I'm looking for. And this is a story about dwarves, which I've been looking for books that are about magical creatures that we don't normally see. Like, you get a lot of elf books and books about fairies, and you get a lot of books about witches, but you don't get a lot of books about elves or about dwarves or orcs and stuff, which I did have some orc books, but then I just kind of lost interest in it. By Stan Nichols. It's interesting. It was interesting. It wasn't terrible. It was just, you know, I lost interest. Warning though, it has a rape scene in it where a human gets raped by an orc. In fact, he gets drugged and then he gets raped. So it's a little disturbing. But of course they're orcs, and she's an orc queen. So, and I did read a little bit of it already, and I'm on chapter 2, and of course it has warning and all that. But I can't wait to read more. And this is one I'm thinking about bringing with me to Virginia when I go, but I don't know yet. But I'm waiting until the last minute before I make an official decision. But yeah, I want to read this and have a good time and enjoy this, learning about the dwarves. So when I read these books, I forget that they're not humanoid. So, although dwarves are humanoid. Like, I struggle picturing them. When I picture them, they don't look like the creatures that they are and how they're described in the story, you know, traditional. I picture them looking like humans, and they're not. But, yeah, this is another one I want to read. And then these last 2 are ones that the epic fantasy series that I finally gave in and decided to start reading them. That's Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan, and later by Brandon Sanderson, because sadly Robert Jordan has passed away. And Daniel Green loves the series to talk about all the time how great it is, how well done it is. It's not perfect, but what book is perfect, and who would want to read a perfect book? That would be boring. And I read these books just for the story. I don't care if they're, you know, like, I don't pay attention to the writing style, you know. I mean, as long as it's a good story, I can ignore some of the flaws. Obviously, with like I have a soft spot for Twilight, and I still want to read Cassie Clare's books, and I still enjoy Sarah J. Maas's world. Although I'm starting to move on from that, but I do want to continue reading her books. But I can't even sum this up because no one's ever given me a real description of what it's about, and there's no back description. It's just a list of books in the series, and he is heavily inspired by Tolkien in this book, and I think a lot of people take issue with that, and a lot of hardcore Tolkien fans, which I think is stupid. But you know, I know how fangirls are. I mean, I still have my moments of being the stupid, petty, annoying fangirl. But it helps that I'm not obsessing over anything right now, you know. So I can't wait to read this. I'm so excited. This one, I think I'm definitely gonna bring with me to Virginia. It's so fun, and I just can't wait. I'm so excited to read it. You know, the more I hear Daniel talk and watch his videos, the more excited I am to read it. And the last one, this is kind of one that I stumbled upon. Like, I saw it. I don't remember where I saw it. I don't know if it was Books A Million or somewhere else. Or maybe I saw it. Oh, wait, I think it was the Gibbons bookstore. I saw some of the books in the series, and I decided to buy them because they sounded interesting. Then I realized it was a series, and they weren't the first books. And this is the first book. And of course, you know, again, another series that's not perfect. People take issue with it. And like, but of course the hardcore, but then it has its hardcore fans that absolutely love it and don't care what other people say, and they're like, it's the best series ever. So I didn't want to read it. It looks like fun and interesting, and I actually accidentally, not realizing it, bought the ARC, because I knew I needed the first book. I saw it, and that was the day that Lisa let me take a whole bunch of books books that, like, she gave them to me. And that I saw that one, I was like, ooh, can I take this one? And it was in the spot where she said with the books that I could take. And then when I get home, when I did that haul, I realized then that it was actually an ARC and not the whole story. Which nothing's wrong with an ARC, it's just I didn't want to start buying ARCs because they're not the whole story, they're not the complete story. And then it's hard to get rid of ARCs. Because, you know, you can't, technically the bookstore probably wasn't supposed to sell that. I mean, in fact, it says it on there. And, you know, not every, people, it will just keep, when people finish it, they'll just want to keep passing it down to get to other people. But I don't know what this is about, and I don't want to know, because with epic fantasy, I feel like just like with thrillers, you almost want to go into it. I don't want to say blind, because I feel like you shouldn't go into a book blind. I think I would rather have some idea of what the book is about, but just enjoy the ride and don't focus on trying to describe the book, find out what it's about, just go into it. Get lost and jump down the rabbit hole, as I like to say now. So those are all the series and books that I want to get into, or I've started reading and I need to pursue them and continue with them. Are there any series that you guys want to get into, that you need to continue with, or a series that you've absolutely fallen in love with? Please share in the comments below, unless you're not a series reader. And if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and click subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, enjoy your reading, and I will talk to y'all later. Alright, bye!